generation that we can see that first 25 chapters, the first census till 25 chapters, we see that the entire old generation is completely over. And then the new generation, new beginning takes place. And that there are reasons for the end of the old generations that we will see. And only from the old generation, Joshua and Caleb, they remain. All, even Moses also does not enter into the promised land, does not enter into this, come into this new generation. Three-part division of the book of Numbers. The first part is first 10 chapters, and this is what we will follow this division. First, census and the preparation for the journey. Preparation, they are going to start. That is, first 10 chapters deal with that. Then 10, 11 to 21, that is the journey from Sinai to Moab, the plains of Moab, towards the plains of Moab. And here, lots of this complaining, murmuring takes place 8 times, that is, we find. And then we have the events on the plains of Moab, that is just opposite the promised land, opposite side of the river Jordan. And those events from 10, 21 to 36, those events are narrated in those chapters. First two parts are more important, but we will go through these 3 parts as we go through this book, walk through this book. The first part is preparation for the journey, and the census comes in the first chapter itself. And the book of Numbers has got 2 census in chapter 1 and chapter 26. First is about the old generation census, that is, which is the Exodus generation, and 26 is the new generation, which is now going to enter into the promised land. Male 20 years old and over, they are only counted in the census. Women, children are not counted, only about 20 years male. Count was in the first census was 6,03,550, second census 6,01,730. So not big difference. A very minuscule percent is now not able to cross the promised land. But otherwise, the number remains more or less 6 lakh people, and that is what was also the number when they left out of Egypt. That is in Exodus 12:37. They were only 70 people, they become 6 lakh. And so that is how we see that God has abundantly blessed them. Now here the tribe of Levi is not counted because they don't have inheritance. In place of tribe of Levi, 2 other tribes, the sons of Joseph, 2 share are there, Ephraim and Manasseh. So that way we have number 12, but Levi is not counted. In place of Levi, Ephraim and Manasseh in that first census. Then we have the preparation for the journey, in that arrangement of the tribes, how they are arranged. The tent of meeting, the tabernacle is in the center, priests and Levites are around the tabernacle, and then the tribes according to their importance. The more important, the holier the tribe, closer is to that. And Judah is in the beginning, Ephraim is at the end. And then they are taking this throne of God, portable Mount Sinai, the tabernacle, they are carrying it in a liturgical procession. God is with them. Then special census of the Levites. First census, that census is not related to the Levites. Levites have special census. They are not included into 12 tribes. They are separate. They are for the service of God. And their number is 22,000 in the first census. In the second census, 23,000. So that their number has increased. That is what we see. Other tribe has slightly decreased, but they have increased. So Levites have got a special place because they redeem. Actually, there is this thing. Each firstborn is taken, was supposed to be God, but Levite take their place and become the offering to the Lord in that sense. Then we have the rules about ritual impurity, restitution of ordeal, the restitution to be given, ordeal of a suspected adulteress. Now this is little negative in emphasis, that who are not supposed to be in the camp. Those who are not clean have to be outside the camp, because the camp is for the holy people, God's holy people. So leprosy patients were not supposed to be in the camp; they were outside the camp. And even here, if wife is suspected by her husband being unfaithful, then there was an ordeal. It's not exactly that she has to jump. There was a kind of a ritual that because of this suspicion is there, she has to go through a trial, and if she is found guilty, then she becomes infertile. So these are some kind of a psychological trial that was there. But and here, in response to that priest uttering those words, people are going to say Amen. First time the word Amen is coming in the mouth of a, I mean, the suspected adulteress will say, if I have done this thing, if I have done this thing, then this thing happened to me. And then she says Amen to that. So this is humiliating, that you say, okay, about the woman being. So there are some elements which are not very liberating, but that is their tribal mentality. As I mentioned, the historical progression. But the ancient Near Eastern laws were even more oppressive. So in Hammurabi code, they are saying if a finger has been pointed at a man's wife because of another man, it's not she's caught. She has not been caught lying with that man, but she shall leap into the river for the sake of her husband. And that is the ordeal. So those laws were very repressive. Then we have the Nazarites. The Nazarites. Who are the Nazarites? They are dedicated to the Lord. And here they are, John the Baptist was a Nazarite. But there were Nazarites who were temporary period. Some Nazarites were entire life. They were not supposed to have alcoholic drinks and hair uncut and avoid any contact with the corpse. So even if their parents would die, they will not go and touch their corpse or whatever. No contact. So that was the purity. And everyone, even in the Paul also had taken the vow of Nazarites. That is what we see in Acts. So temporary vow also was possible. Everybody was eligible to this Nazarite vow. And here we have this beautiful blessing. You know this priestly blessing which we have on every year on the 1st of January. And the first reading is taken from the book of Numbers, the priestly blessing. I will sing these words. You know the words. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his face upon you and give you peace. Now, these words in Hebrew, I will sing those words just for our, because those are the words which are written there. In Hebrew, they have got a lot of effect and a lot of power in that sense. So maybe you can close your eyes and I will sing this priestly blessing for you. Yabarekha Adonai Veishmerecha Yair Adonai Panav Elecha Vekunecha Isa Adonai Panav Elecha Veyasem Lecha Shalom Veyasem Lecha Shalom. So this is in this chapter that we see that entire this book of Numbers 1 to 6 is giving us so many different laws, so many different requirements, and that if that part of obedience is followed, then the blessing of the Lord will be with them. So that is kind of cause effect relationship that we see. That in chapter 6 we have the blessing. And then in chapter 7, because they receive blessing from God, now they very willingly offer gifts to the Lord. What the people want to do for God. Now, what God wants to do for them, that God wants to let his face shine and God wants to give them peace and prosperity. Now, they want to give also offering to the Lord. This is the longest chapter and there are repetition. Each tribe is bringing their gifts to God. And there all gifts are mentioned. Cereal offerings, burnt offerings, sin offering, peace offerings, various silver plate, golden dish, and all these things repetitively mentioned. What all the animals and gifts they have brought. Response of Aaron and his the Levites. Here now the response. What are the priests supposed to do by lighting? They have to take care of the menorah, that is the lamps, seven lamps were there, and that was what continuously they have to take care. And then the ordination of the priesthood is mentioned. How consecration of Levites, not the ordination of priests. Ordination of priesthood that we had already seen in the book of Levites. Now the Levites are consecrated. So priests are ordained and Levites are consecrated. They are purified. They are purified and they are brought to, hands are laid upon them, and all the Israelites lay their hands upon them. And they belong to the Lord, and the Lord belongs to them because they are set apart. Levites is a tribe completely given to God. And they are also given to the priests. They are as a service to the priests, the Levites. Then here we have the about the second Passover. What is the second Passover? If you are in a journey, if you are unclean, you are not able to celebrate the first Passover, that is the normal Passover, which is our Easter feast, then there was an alternate arrangement. Since you are not able to celebrate, for those people who are not able to celebrate because of certain reasons, they can celebrate it later on, after a month. So that is the another alternate arrangement is made. And then the fiery cloud. Now cloud was already settled down on the tent of the meeting. The cloud overshadowed at the end of Exodus that we saw. And whenever the people were journeying, the cloud was lifted and moving ahead of them. And especially at night, it was fiery cloud to show them, give them the direction. So now here, the God is guiding them. There was the divine presence which was shining upon them. The let the face of the Lord shine upon you. Now here, the divine presence is guiding you with the fiery cloud, and that is what God with them. God is with them to bless them. God is with them to guide them. And then we have silver trumpets, which has to be those silver trumpets for when the feasts were celebrated, when they wanted to summon the congregation, we want to break the meetings, finish the meetings. So these trumpets were blown. This became the sign, a kind of how you have the bells now, various bells, different signals. So this became a signal for them, for the people to come together, for the leaders to come together. So different signals were there. And then that was the first part, the preparation. Now we come to the central part, and which is more important because we know, we are also aware about this part more than the other parts, is that their journey aspect, 10 to 21. Here, after 10 months, they was all from Exodus 19, they came to Mount Sinai. Till now, Numbers 10, they are at Mount Sinai only. So much time. Entire the 19 to 40 chapters of Exodus, entire book of Leviticus, and then the 10 chapters of Numbers, they were at Mount Sinai. And now they are leaving. Now they are leaving. And they will move from this wilderness of Sinai, and from there they will move, and then they will first they will go to wilderness of Paran, and then afterwards Plains of Moab, crossing Edom and all that area, and they will go to the Plains of Moab. That is what we see in this journey narrative. And in this journey, they are continuously murmuring. There is a pattern which is shown over there. And what is the pattern? They start complaining, murmuring, and they receive punishment. Then Moses intercedes on behalf of them, and there is the termination of punishment. So this cycle, and again the murmuring. So 8 cycles are there, so to say. There is a general complaining about misfortunes and hardships. And complaining is a hitpile, that means continuous. It is like nagging, continuous, picking. Lamentation is an expression of faith. Lamentation is good. In Psalms there are like, oh Lord, how long? But there is that trust element is there. Trust element is there. But here murmuring is a failure of faith. There is lack of trust. No, you don't care, like that kind of a thing. God is not. So there in Psalms also there are complaints, laments, but they are an expression of faith. But murmuring is an expression of not lack of faith. That is what we see. We will see this part wilderness journey is divided into 10 almost 10 chapters are there. Each chapter we will divide into. There are almost altogether 8 complaints. Now in this chapter 11, there are 2 complaints are there. One is lack of meat and other good things to eat. And the second is responsibility of leadership. Because of this, all these complaints, Moses is thoroughly fed up. He says, it is better that I die than lead these ungrateful people. And these are the 2 complaints. He's saying it is too much for me. And God responds. First, he is giving them a lot of meat to eat. Okay, you are craving for meat. I'll give you so much meat that it will come out of your nostrils. God is providing. Okay. The second is that Moses' burden is lightened. The 70 elders are receiving a spirit of a portion of Moses' spirit. Then the second part, chapter 12, is jealousy of Miriam. And Miriam and Aaron both are jealous now, and Miriam receives punishment. Miriam maybe has more share into that jealousy because she has, about Moses' marriage, she complains that, okay, you have got married to a Cushite, Midianite woman. She is like a Midianite, that is a foreigner woman, so it is supposed to be not good. And about his charismatic abilities, saying, oh, only you think that you are the prophet, but we are also prophets. God also speaks to us. So in that sense, they are complaining against Moses. And as punishment, Miriam was had to endure leprosy for a week. And Moses prays for her and she is healed. Now here in this, Moses' character comes out very strongly. And I like this Numbers 12:3, which is a very, very beautiful quotation. This is, now the man Moses was very humble, more so than anyone else on the face of the earth. This is the reason why God chose Moses. Why did God choose Moses? The best quality and the most important quality, the one quality, that he was more humble than anyone else on the face of the earth. Jesus is saying, I am meek and humble of heart. Yeah, meek and humble of heart. And that is what we need to learn, being meek and humble. And that is the best virtue in the kingdom of heaven, being like children. And Moses was like that. And his uniqueness that we see, he incomparable. He could say God face to face. No other prophet was to that his level. So that is mentioned in this chapter 12. Then we know that there is a spy mission. Joshua, Caleb, and other 10 tribes, they go, and here we see the grave sin at Kadesh Barnea. Kadesh Barnea is at the border of the Holy Land. They are there, the south side, and then they send 12 spies in Negev. Negev means south, and come to the Hebron and all. It is very impressive land. They give very positive report, land flowing with milk and honey, but inhabitants are very strong and they get frightened. They have this grasshopper complex. Now, what is this grasshopper complex? Negative thinking. Oh, we cannot do anything. Oh, we cannot do anything. What will happen? An exaggerated situation. Oh, problem is so big. Problem is so big. I cannot handle this problem. And a desire to return to the slavery. Desire to return to the sin. Oh, previous thing was better. Yeah, it would have been nice if that. So this thing, grasshopper complex, we also develop, and then we become weak. Instead of looking towards God, we look at the problems. And then we see that in Numbers 14, they are punished because of extreme hard-heartedness. They wanted to stone Moses and all and go back, appoint leader and go back to Egypt. Such a strong, and God becomes very furious. But Moses stands between God's wrath and people. God just wanted to wipe them out, but Moses intercedes. God forgives, but there is a consequence. They have to wander through that desert 40 years, and that generation will perish. One generation will perish. So 40 years is important number, as you know. Noah is flood 40 days, 40 nights. Moses on the mountains 40 days, 40 nights. Elijah is walking also 40 days, 40 nights to come to Horeb. Jesus tempted for 40 days, 40 nights. Ascension also after 40 days. So it means 40 days is a long period. One generation, entire generation. That time people used to not live so long, 30, 40 years. So 40 years is an entire lifetime. A time of need, a time of struggle, a time of testing, and a time of preparation for some special action. The Lord is going to take some action. So that is the period. Then we have the regulation for life in the promised land. So about ritualistic section is there, sacrifices to atone unintentional sins, stoning for violating Sabbath. So some about remembering the Sabbath by putting the fringes, tassels on garments. So these kind of laws, regulations are given in between. Then we have two rebellions against authoritative leadership. It can be considered as one rebellion or two rebellions. One is secular rebellion, that is from Dathat, Reubenite people. And they against Moses' civil authority. Oh, you are leading, we can also lead. And then the ground is swallowed up and they are gone inside the ground. So, Samadhi, they go inside completely. And then religious insurrection. Korah, Levite, he is acting against Aaron and this thing that, okay, we can also, a Levite, we can also celebrate we can also be the priest. Why only the Aaronite have to be the priest? But God says he burns them to death. Is Korah's rebellion. So, in the face of continued opposition, now Aaron's almond rod sprouts that God has chosen, not only Moses, God has also chosen Aaron. And as a test, he called, okay, you come candidates, let's see who God has chosen. Whom God has chosen. And then here Aaron is chosen. Aaron's rod, almond rod, it sprouts. You know, this story is also associated with Saint Joseph, his rod that is sprouting up. Then we have the priests and Levites, how their relationship is going to be. Levites are subordinate to the priests. They have to give, they receive tithe from the people and they give 1/10 tithe to the priests. So that is how this kind of hierarchy is maintained. Then ritual of Red Hypha. Now there were lots of deaths taken place after that Korah's rebellion and after these people who had gone for the spies and all this thing. So many people had died. So you think if people die, what ritual has to be done? Because after touching the corpse, you become impure. So in order to become pure, ashes of a red heifer, they were slaughtered and they were put to remove the in water. So that water was sprinkled and then you could become when your purification ritual was there through the ashes of the red heifer. Then death of Miriam. This is in chapter 20 is important chapter. Both Aaron and Miriam die, and then Moses is also punished. Aaron is punished anyway. Aaron is dying, but Moses won't be able to enter the promised land. And this is the central part is the Meribah incident. You know what happened at Meribah. There was a Massa and Meribah incident already narrated in Exodus 17. But here it is more exemplified and shown why Moses is not entering the promised land. What is the fault of Moses? One thing that Moses, God said, you speak to that rock. But Moses is not only speaking, he is hitting the rock and hitting it twice. He was only asked to speak to the rock. So that shows his distrust. And then it is also a reason rationalizing why Moses did not himself complete the journey from Egypt to Canaan. He should have also led people to the. But as a leader, he simply disappears and then allows another next leader to take the transition. Then Edom refuses the entry. Edom was supposed to actually if they have to cross the desert, they could have to go through the land of Edom, but Edom they have to then go other way around, and that is why the people complain. And Eliezer succeeds Aaron. Eliezer is the son of Aaron. Aaron dies, and the new generation takes over. Now this is the last murmuring because of they murmur because they are not given the entry to the Edom. They say, oh, it is now again becoming too long, too cumbersome. They murmur. And then here, you know that incident of bronze, the fiery serpent. And then the bronze serpent is created. And this we all know. How this bronze serpent is There was a bronze snake Nehushtan, which was in the Solomon's temple as the remembrance of this incident. But then it was removed by Hezekiah because it could lead to idolatrous practices. And Christians see a bronze serpent as a type of Jesus' cross, where the instrument of torture becomes a sign of salvation. What was supposed to be deadly now becomes a sign of salvation, blessing. So that is, and they also defeat now afterwards in this chapter 21, King Sihon of Amorites and King Og of Bashan. So already they are now capturing the land on the other side of Jordan. So that thing now already they are reaching the Jordan area, uh, the area up across Jordan. Okay. Now we come to the third section, which is the events on the plains of Moab, other side of Moab. They are in Moab, they are on the other side of Israel. And you see, they are all settled down. So, in this section, we have the events taking place on the plains of Moab. The focus is on the death of the old generation and the birth of the new generation. New generation is blessed by the Lord, and it is evident from the four oracles of Balaam. Now, you know the story of Balaam. Balaam is sent, we will see the story of Balaam. So, that they are blessed, they are the people blessed by God. This section also deals with several practical details like right of inheritance, boundaries and division, Levitical cities, cities of refuge. Like these details are there. These are from 21 to 36. So it is a bigger portion. Then first 10 chapters, then second 10 chapters, and then these are almost 16 chapters dealing with now they are at the plains of Moab. And they will remain on the plains of Moab till the book of Deuteronomy is over. So they are first they were at Sinai almost so much time, 10 months. Now they are on the plains of Moab. Their time limit is not so much, but then plains of Moab, the duration of written material is quite a lot. From 21 chapter Numbers 21 till the end of Deuteronomy, they are on the plains of Moab. Here, Numbers King Balak and the oracles of Prophet Balaam. We know the story of Prophet Balaam and his donkey. What happened? Not going to explain in detail and all these things. But this Numbers 22 to 24 is a narrative about this non-Israelite prophet. His name is Balaam. And he is commissioned by the king of Moab because he is now frightened that these Israelites are very powerful people. God is with them and they have defeated the neighboring kings. Now we are also going to be defeated. So then, oh, now what is to be done? So they have to be cursed. And for that reason, this Balak is brought. He is a foreign prophet, but still he is speaking God's word, the word of a prophecy. Balaam tried again and again to curse, but he repeatedly blessed the Israelites. So that is what we say. He's trying his best to curse the Israelites, and that is what he was called. He was paid for that, but then he does not. But he obeys. I mean, he wanted, but he was not allowed to uh, give the curse, but bless there. The first three oracles Balaam gives in response to Balak's request. Balak has asked him to, okay, go and curse them, go and curse them, go and curse them. So three times he tells them, go and curse, but still he blesses. And four times he himself spontaneously says that. And there are two equally miraculous events taking place about talking. It is for God to make Balaam's donkey talk. Balaam's donkey also talked, when that angel stood before him, Balaam's donkey talked. And it is to make Balaam a speaker of blessing rather than a spewer of blasphemy. So he's the one who was supposed to curse becomes the blessing. So God turns everything for our good. That is the aspect, As Romans 8:28 says, for those who love God, everything turns out for good. Now, in these oracles, fourth oracle is especially important because it talks about a future king and Messiah, the Star of David. That is the title we use for Jesus, the Star of David. And that becomes the symbol of Israel, star, a star and a scepter. Scepter is the kingly authority. This prophecy goes beyond Genesis. Genesis also, they had said that the uh, Lion of Judah was mentioned, who will prosper. When Jacob had given blessing to his son Judah. Now here it was fulfilled first in David, and then it was extended to the Messiah. That is not them then. Messiah was considered as the son of the star. It's called Bar Kokhba. That is why there was a revolution in the first century, and the leader of that revolution called himself as Bar Kokhba. When I am the son of the star, I am the Messiah. And that was violent revolution uh, after Jesus' time, around 135 in the second century against the Romans. So Bar Kokhba is that title they use for the Messiah, Jewish people. Animals often, as we see also, animals often play an important role in biblical dramas. Abraham's ram was caught at the time of sacrifice. Aaron's calf, golden calf. Jonah's fish. Daniel's lions. Peter's rooster. Jesus' colt, that Jesus is sitting on the donkey. And here also the donkey plays an important role in this story. Then worship of Baal of Peor. Now Baal, here we see another sin, of suffering. Sin is taking place. Now that murmuring and all that part is over, but now here Balaam, Balaam who was paid by Balak to curse the Israelites, but now he devises another plan, another scheme, and he is making the Moabites, daughters of Moab, and the Midianites, those people, those foreigners, to seduce the Israelites, and that way they will be taken away from God. And there we have the sexual relations with Moabite women and worshipping. And once you follow the other woman, then you go to their gods also, you worship their gods. And that is the typical sin which we find in the Old Testament. Even Solomon also marries foreign women and then goes after their gods, idolatry. So where the potency of spell is the curse that they had, he was called for that, but the potency of seduction succeeds. And that is what we see in this story. And the Lord becomes angry, as we see throughout in this narrative. There is punishment as a consequence. And he is asking Moses to execute the participants who are indulging in this kind of these marriages and sexual licentiousness. And there we have one incident mentioned, that a Israelite man was lying with a woman, a Midianite woman. Actually, Moses' wife was also Midianite, but now they are not allowing this thing. And then uh, Phinehas is the grandson of Aaron. He took that action, violent action, but he is praised for that action. He just simply, both of them, he made the spear thrusting through, I mean going through, he thrust the spear through their belly and he killed them. And he was rewarded. There was an eternal covenant made with Phinehas. So these are the incident. But what they want to show, that this is a very, idolatry is, and a sexual licentiousness is a grave sin against God, which is not supposed to be tolerated in the holy people of Israel. Then we have the census, the second census, the birth of the new generation, the second census. Here we have the second census of Israelites, and the exited generation no longer lives, only Moses, Joshua, and Caleb. Moses will also not remain. Then Joshua and Caleb will lead the people into. Joshua is the representative of the tribe of Judah. Caleb is the representative of the tribe of Ephraim. So these two strong tribes, they are represented by these two leaders. The total of each tribe are fairly close to the same number which we saw in chapter 1. There is neither boom nor bust in population. Now, two exceptions of the are the tribe of Simeon, which has declined very strongly, which is almost merged actually with the tribe of Judah. So Simeon later on does not get much existence. And Manasseh has expanded because it is also both the sides, Trans-Jordan and in Cisjordan. It is this side of the Jordan and inside Israel also. So the not much change has taken place in this census. This right of inheritance of women and Joshua's succession that is mentioned in chapter 27. Female heirs. Earlier it was the property was only for the men, not for the women. But here one incident takes place that a new law is initiated because daughters of Zelophehad they come forward to seek justice. So they say it is our right to the land, and that right is because their father did not have son. That is why the women said we should possess the land, otherwise our father's share will be completely lost. So, according to this law, if a man has no sons, then the inheritance will pass to daughters. If no daughters, then to brothers of the deceased, and so forth to uncles of the deceased, and so nearest of kin. So that way, the land ownership, because for them, land ownership was very important, and the women will get the share when there is no male heir. So, okay, these are the old laws, not the modern laws. Then Joshua succeeds Moses, as we say, uh, that Moses makes the suggestion to God about a successor, and his that spirit is shown, that generous spirit, that his concern for Israel, not to leave them as sheep without a shepherd. That is the point is made over here, sheep without shepherd, 27:17. And Joshua is supernaturally prepared. In him there is a spirit, there is spirit of God, and he is designated as Moses' successor. So Moses blesses him and he becomes the successor, but he is subject to the priest. Moses was not subject to the priest. Moses was above the priest, but he will be, his authority will be subjected to the priest. So that adjustment is made. And then we have religious calendar, offerings, vows. All these things are mentioned in chapter 28 to 30. Various offerings that they make, uh, form of animals, flour, oil, wine, all these things, and on which occasion, which sacrifices have to be made, all these things, and about the vows made by a woman. So that is also given. Then we have chapter 31. These are the concluding chapter 31 to 36. And those are concluding events in Moab, the plains of Moab. And here some final details are mentioned, nothing very clear. Several loose chapters are there. There is an extermination of Midianites. You know, Midianites were friendly people to Moses. I mean, especially at the time of Exodus time, because uh, Moses' wife was a Midianite. Moses' father-in-law, Jethro, is a Midianite priest. So, but now there is a kind of a holy war, and they are completely defeated and completely exterminated. And why this is so? Actually, this is not actually really the fact when they were completely exterminated, but this is to show that these camel riding nomads were a nuisance to Israelites, those Israelites who were settled in Israel, because they were constantly attacking them. So for that reason, now this chapter is saying they are completely defeated and they are exterminated. Then we have the settlement of the Trans-Jordanian tribes. As you see over here in this map, Manasseh, Gad, and Reuben, these three tribes occupy the Trans-Jordanian land. They had defeated the king of Ammonites and Bashan, Og and Sihon. So now their land is now divided into these three tribes. Reuben, Gad, and a half tribe of Manasseh. They get this land, but they are given this land on the condition that they have to also enter into the promised land, fight along with their other tribe members, and then afterwards they can come back and settle in your. So there is no room for spectators. You have to act along with us. So that is how this is the settlement of Trans-Jordanian tribes. And then the travel itinerary. This is looking at the past and see how they traveled from one place to the other, when they left Exodus, when they left Egypt, and from Mount Sinai, where all they went. So that is mentioned over here. Egypt to Canaan, indicating places, various stops, and identification of most of the places. The names of the places is not exactly clear, so it is difficult to identify. Uh, then we have the boundaries and divisions. Now, which places are mentioned? The Holy Land, what are the boundaries? So, here the boundaries of the promised land is given much more extended. Normally, we say the promised land is from Dan to Beersheba. But here, this boundary toward in the north, it is going even Lebanon and Syria is reaching to that part. So this is like Akhanda Bharat, which Afghanistan also covering. So like that, this is their dream of land, promised land is put in the book of Number. So in the north it is Lebo Hamath, which is very much top ahead, and in the south it is Kadesh Barnea, which is more south to the Beersheba. So this is how here the numbers they have shown the boundaries. Arrangement for Levitical cities and cities of refuge for those who are unintentionally murdered somebody, so they could go to that cities of refuge and take refuge over there, so that otherwise their next of kin would not take revenge on them. So that was the purpose. So Numbers 35 also assigns 48 cities to the Levites. So these Levite cities are for the Levites did not have their own share. Levites did not have their own property, but some places they were given in between. Otherwise, each tribe was given a particular area. Okay, Manasseh had this land, Issachar had this land, Judah had this land. So like that, each tribe had land, a particular portion, but this one, Levites were scattered everywhere. So they were serving as a kind of intermediary priest for those other people. And then the city of refuge that we see. And then the maintaining the equal distribution of land. For that reason, they said ancestral property should remain with the. So that is why the marriage laws were made. Suppose now woman got the property share from the father, and if the woman marries another tribe, then what will happen? That land will go to the another tribe. That should never happen. For that reason, this made certain laws that the tribe land should remain in the tribe. So that was the laws were made. And with that, I think this is the chapter 36 is over, and then we see briefly this theology. This is the last slide. It is a journey of faith leading to purification. Now, it does not see everything is very purifying and all this thing, but then in this aspect, at least they are going through the struggle. They are experiencing God. They are knowing. Actually, this wilderness journey becomes for the prophet, for the later prophets, a period of like say the being with the Lord, that God is journeying with them, and they are experiencing God as a redeemer God also, and as a consuming fire. Fire is a purifying effect, but fire also kills. Fire also burns. So God is now experienced. Wrath of God, mercy of God, and judgment of God are two sides of the same coin. We cannot say when we do not accept the mercy of God, we choose the wrath of God. It is not that God is putting his wrath upon us, but we choose. That is their experience. Now, this is the quotation of Augustine of Hippo. With that, we end. He says, "Do not despair, was saved. Do not presume, one of the thieves was condemned." So, with that, we end. If you have any